Welcome to Let's Talk About Gay Stuff. Woo! Meow. The podcast where we talk about gay stuff and discuss the week in LGBT plus history. We are, I'm going to get my name right this time, Thomas.
Tony.
Kendall.
Welcome, ladies. How are you guys doing today?
Amazing.
All right, so this week we're reviewing the week of September 1st through September 7th, and we'll discuss Freddie Mercury, Dan White, and Queen Bey Beyonce. So, you guys ready to talk about gay stuff?
Yeah.
All right. Before we dig into the juice of this week, anything fun happened for you guys? Nothing. Silence. You guys
We're
have
here
no
at the intern's lake house right now.
We're on location recording.
On the road.
Kathy Smith's lake.
Kathy, thank you for letting us stay.
Address is
and record here.
It's a very nice setup here. I like they've done so.
We haven't left the house.
I hope
there
Kathy
could be a
doesn't
lake.
get stalkers
I haven't really
after
gone
us
outside.
being here.
Fun note on the lake house, like they basically rebuilt this, like with just Spencer's mom and dad, like they did this whole thing. So stairs, flooring, walls. It's really nice.
Many a lesbian gave their life to build these stairs in this house.
Yeah, no, it's really good, but very comfortable. Got a nice view of the lake. Like Kendall said, we haven't been outside yet, but that's okay. We're glamping.
There's allegedly a lake out there.
We're supposed to be doing a campfire tonight.
Ooh.
I do like the setup that we have in terms of like normally we're at this small table in the apartment, and now we've got these big cushy places.
Yeah.
Yeah, all spread out. Kendall is literally spread out with.
But you know what? My rule is if I fall asleep, don't you dare wake me up.
This is true.
Of course not.
That's
you don't contribute anything anyway. Like,
I know. Y'all have to tap me when it's my turn.
We'll hear you snoring.
exactly.
Do you snore, Tony? Are you
Why are
snoring?
you trying to tap me?
So, I didn't think I did, but I went on a ski trip earlier this year, and everyone's like, you have like a little... Just a...
They're being polite by saying kind of.
I
know.
That seems like a cute little snore.
My friend Chris had this stupid app that was like this massive rainforest.
You mean Chris from RSPP Podcast?
Yes. RSPPpodcast.com. Well, I didn't want to call him out, but yeah. I don't know how you could hear anything through that app. It was like...
Speaking of Chris, we saw Dixie.
Yeah, she was amazing.
So at this point, it's like 2 weeks old, but Dixie was participating in Drag It On 3, which I guess is still going on at Guava Lamp. But
a drag performance between like 12 drag queens.
12
drag
queens.
competition.
Yeah, a la RuPaul's Drag Race. And so they've been, Dixie was sporting it out. They were doing... I said Gumbies, but what is Pokemon? Yeah, I was like, I don't remember what that cartoon
Pokemon and their favorite cartoon.
Gummies.
Yeah, no gummies.
Gummies, what?
Pokemon like came on before or after I was already an adult, so I don't remember.
No, we were in high school.
Were we?
Yeah.
Pokemon? I missed that whole...
We were too busy studying.
Yeah, we were
being
trying to
all
make
serious.
Locked in your room, crying.
No, that's just me as an adult.
That's Tony.
I was happy
Pokemon.
as a child.
That's post Pokemon.
But yeah, Dixie turned it out. Dixie was in this interesting predicament because she was eliminated the week before, and then the host of the show said, we're going to keep her around, but in order for you to stay one more week, you got to be in the top 2, and Dixie wasn't in the top 2. But they also told Dixie that if she wasn't in the top 2, she wasn't going to be able to lip sync for her life. And then they gave her a chance to lip sync.
Mm-hmm.
And she lost.
She didn't do her extra credit and study that lip sync, even though she knew there was zero chance she would ever have to do it.
Yeah, if she would have been spending more time, less time. What was I trying to say? I have had too many mimosas, maybe.
More time practicing.
Less time
lip
drinking?
sync.
Is that what you're thinking?
Less time watching Pokemon and more time studying. She probably would have been.
Thank you.
Still in it. Just kidding. We are reading Dixie right now. Luckily, Dixie's just.
I didn't see you climbing on stage in your little heels and your little half askew wig.
Aren't we thankful?
We've talked. We've talked about this before, but I don't think I could do
we wouldn't be there to support.
No one would be there. I think technically it would be interesting to try to do drag just in terms of how they make themselves, but I could never do it.
Thomas is doing drag.
Jenny Tonics. We already talked about names, and you guys blanked when I was like, "What are your names?" And
just make sure them shoulders match them hips.
Montana Humps. That's going to be your name.
Okay.
Does Montana hump? Not in a long time.
He'd like to.
It's been a dry spell. We're trying to find you a boyfriend. I think it's going to happen, Tony. Don't you worry.
The world's
I can feel it.
First bushiest femme bison from the plains of Montana.
Yes.
He wants to be mounted.
Rolling
grizzly
in
bear,
from
you know.
Butt, Montana.
From Butt, Montana. Also, we so after last week's discussion about Bill Miller's and which is a San Antonio fried chicken place, and their owner being a Republican donating to Trump, we talked about one of the bars in San Antonio that the bar owner is a Republican. He's running for office, and it's uproar, right? I mean, everyone was like, "Oh, we're never going to go there." The bar's Pegasus, and what did we do this past weekend?
I
Y'all
knew that
went
would
there.
happen. We went to Pegasus.
Was it
Went to
packed? Were
Pegasus.
there a lot of people that are like, I don't care
Packed.
if we're going?
It was packed.
Probably because it's San Antonio and the guy was a Republican, so they wanted
You know
to show
what?
support.
He's a smart business owner. He's like,
Well, you know why I support it, and I wish all gay bars were owned by Republicans now, is that I got 3 vodka Red Bull doubles for $10.05.
that's because it's San Antonio.
Isn't that crazy?
Cheap there.
3
Smaller
vodka
town.
sugar doubles
Smaller town.
for a total at $10. I died.
San Antonio is the
I became a
7th
Republican. I
largest city.
changed my registration right on the
You are
spot.
now Republican.
MAGA.
Oh no.
Keep America great.
Isn't it larger than Dallas?
Yeah, but it's like Dallas, Fort Worth. That
Yeah, because
metro's
there's 2
way
cities,
bigger
but it's
than-
bigger than,
Yeah, Dallas Metro is still bigger than San Antonio, but San Antonio because San Antonio is constantly annexing portions of their neighbors.
Yeah, because when you drive into San Antonio, it says "Welcome to San Antonio," and you look around like, damn, nothing but dry ass wigs and scorpions.
there's nothing there around. But we went to San Antonio for a purpose. So Spence was saying, we need to go see your nephews, and I was reminded that I need to be a
Spence
good,
the intern, or we call the spin turn.
the spin
The
turn.
spin turn.
We went to go, and we took Kendall along because my sister has this really nice home out in the burbs. So what up, Burr? And her and her husband and the kiddos have a really nice home, but they hadn't really done any work inside, like in terms of design, and they've been wanting to do that. And my brother-in-law has got the cash to do it. So finally, we took interior design expert Kendall Satcher at Kendall Interiors to give some guidance, and they did that. What I thought was just going to be on one day, and it turned out to be a 2-day excursion. But I'm happy it did because it was a good. I mean, my sister was really pleased with the house.
She liked it,
Yeah.
and I had to use some psychological tricks.
What else did you do? Did you just give her advice, or did you actually go shopping and buy stuff?
We went shopping together,
Okay.
She had a budget, so that was good. Like,
and she's not the most decisive, which she admits, and we love her. We love you, Veronica. Yay.
her name
Oh
is
my God.
Veronica, but
Veronica.
as a kid, there was a friend of the family that called her Veronica, so I've always called her Veronica.
Veronica.
And of course, extra over here decides to go extra.
Latch onto it.
So it's like if I could just convince her, like find a rug that she likes and maybe 1 or 2 pieces, I can build from there and then take over the whole world.
Did you?
One rug at a time.
It worked because I think she sees the vision, and now I'm excited to go back because she's always fun to work with. I love them; they're precious.
Yeah. That's fun.
Now I'm excited to go back and carry it on because we still have a lot to do. You can only do so much in 2 days.
Right.
But you guys spent all day shopping, which it actually worked out well, which is kind of where I've been hoping to push them a little bit, because I know Kendall. The reason I get to do Economy Works now is because I made some money on a home sale, partly because Kendall made the home look really nice, and so I know he's got an eye for it, and so and I'm one who doesn't like to make a decision on interior design either, and but Kendall will push you. So and once he puts that rug down or that picture on the wall, then you're like, oh yeah, I see. And so poor guy has to work a lot hard, especially on me and
You
my
need to come to
family.
my house.
Yeah, but
Oh, really? You're not one of those?
It's super bare. Yeah, I mean.
Do you want things done to it? We'll talk.
I wouldn't hate it. My main floor is
important.
So. Everything else is completely bare still.
But I'm a big fan now because of
You're the only bear
his
there.
lamp. He's always talked about lighting, because I always just have the harsh lights on from the overhead that they come with the apartment or the house, and he's like, no, lamps and rugs.
The high school football field stadium lighting
And they look really good. So
Me too.
without the boys and jockstraps.
How
So
Me too.
Kindle, this is free promo for Kindle Interiors. You can follow him at Kindle Interiors.
Anyway, I can do stories and stories on the importance of interior design. We'll talk, Tony. Don't you?
But what did you?
We don't normally talk off microphone,
Ew, no.
but we'll get to know each other.
What did you do though? What was some things that my sister liked and that you liked from what you did?
From what we did, what I always say is lighting is important. If you only have overhead lighting, then you're not living in your best potential in life. It's just harsh. It
All
makes
I
you
have
look
is-
ugly. It drowns you out. It
That's
makes
all
you
I
want to
have.
escape from the light. Makes you want to go to bed early.
that's why I'm
Like you
single.
need soft. See the lighting.
Because
That made
every
you
time
single.
I bring a guy home, the bright light's going. He's like, ugh. gotta
Well,
go. I
what's
gotta
gonna
get up early
happen
tomorrow."
though if I put beautiful soft lighting in your townhome and still you're single?
Wow, wow.
Then we have to
Well-
look deep inside ourselves, Tony.
Right. Well, can't you just have magical lighting that?
You know what? You need to focus on the glow from within and not the glow from
So
the
what did you do
lamps.
to the house? You added some lighting.
Well, bless her heart. She's precious. But she had all them furniture pushed up against the wall like they were doing gymnastics
Wow,
lessons.
All
Ver,
the
you
what?
wanted us to talk about you. We were talking about
She
you.
wanted a shout out.
He's reading you.
It was cute. It was precious. But she just needed to help take that furniture off the wall. It's a huge,
But
beautiful living room.
I think what you did with
Put
that
a rug,
Yeah.
center it around a rug, make it more conversational instead of linear against the windows, and bring in some art, color. I think, and this is what 90% of people do. It's not specific to Guernica. People don't want to commit to color. So what you do is you get neutral furniture, and then you bring color in art, pillows, curtains, rugs, because you can get rid of those easily. Anyway, as much as I would love to talk about interior design,
But no, it was it was good stuff because it came out well, and you did it on a budget. Most of the stuff you got was at like Home Good, right? I mean, it was on the cheap. So
they don't sponsor us, so we
No.
won't.
But you can do. I guess the point being is like, and I think that's where my sister was like, oh, we got to spend a lot of money, and you bought. I mean, you guys got a lot of stuff for like $1,200, all at Target and Home Goods. Oh my gosh, I just spilled those beans. They're gonna try to tell their guests. Oh,
We told her husband it was 500.
Oh, sorry, he's not listening.
Thank God.
But yeah, so that was fun. I mean, I told my sister because between Spencer doing her makeup and Kendall doing interior design, I said my next boyfriend will be a hairdresser.
Oh my God,
But Spencer
dark.
Spencer doesn't. Spencer's still laughing at that joke.
Hey, what gay creativity, arts, talent do
Do
you
I
bring
have?
into
Nothing.
your relationship with your sister?
Nothing.
okay.
I'm a connector. That's what Economy Works does. Speaking of, Economy Works is our sponsor. So Economy Works is a talent platform that connects professionals with companies that need project work. So if you need help doing marketing, HR, IT work, Economy Works is here to help. So you can find more at economyworks.com because Economy Works. When we work,
The economy works.
Woohoo! All right, so you guys ready to get into the topics this week?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I mean, we gave everyone a free
Our topic is
consultation
Guernica.
on interior design. So let's talk about gay stuff. Let's talk about Queen Bee.
Ooh.
Yes, Beyonce.
H-Town hero.
Yes, H-Town represent. I've loved Beyonce. She's got, a huge fan base, the Beehive. And we talk about her because she's one fierce ass bee, right? I mean, she's awesome.
The Beehive.
Yeah. The Beehive.
I wasn't always on board.
Yeah.
I just thought she was boring. I didn't dislike her. I just thought she was boring. But now I appreciate her.
She's a hardworking woman. Like she gets her stuff done. So Beyonce was born September 4th, 1981. She again is a Houston native. So us being a Houston podcast, love chatting about Beyonce. My favorite line from one of her songs is "Houston, Texas, baby," in the song "Run the World." So every time I got my H.
Even though she's in Pasadena.
No, I'm from Pasadena.
She's too, though.
No, she's not. What?
She's from a suburb. I think she's from a suburb.
I don't know.
That's okay.
She's from Houston. She started out.
She's from Bel Air, right? Isn't she from Bel Air?
Well, I have an old coworker, my friend Robin, who went to middle school with her.
So what we're saying is basically agreeing we should have done more research on her.
I basically what we're saying is I know Beyonce. Actually, I don't. She started with Girls Time. That was the first group she started with. And that was with Kelly Rowland and Latavia. There's a clip on her album Beyonce where they talk about that episode where they were on Star Search, but they lost to some other group. But anyways, it was a memorable moment for Beyonce because it helped inspire her.
Yeah, and if you want to find that on YouTube and they pan to her when she loses, she was not pleased.
Yeah, she was not.
She was like plotting her world domination from that moment on.
She
Don't
runs
get
the
mad,
world.
get even.
So Beyonce eventually was Girls' Time morphed into Destiny's Child, and in 1998 they released their first album, which the song that they came out that's probably popular we most recognize from that album called Destiny's Child was No 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 No. Actually, it's just he knows.
Wait, no.
No. I'm not talking to my nephews.
No, that sounds like a Mexican grandmother telling her, no.
No, yeah. Oh, we don't have royalty rights for that. So Destiny's Child as a group, they had 4 number 1 hits and 2 number 1 albums. Their biggest No was from their premiere album was a big one, but The Writings on the Wall was their second album. They had the popular songs Bugaboo, Bills,
Bugaboo. What about Ladies Even Man at Home?
Jumpin'?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
That was on there.
That's when there were like 6 girls in Destiny's Children.
Yes. That was Destiny's Pack, and the song "Say My Name." So say my name. And they had all the drama with the children, if you will, just in
the
terms
children's
of,
coming in and out of the house.
They kept rotating them out, and finally they landed on the top 3: Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle.
Poor Michelle.
But they're coming back, aren't they?
Yeah, they're coming out in 2020. They're getting back. Destiny's Child. Destiny's
Children.
I always want to call it Destiny's Children.
Like permanently or for like a one show?
No, a tour and an album in 2020.
Okay.
They're trying to give Michelle some love.
Some love.
So, but this is after, because they all kind of did their solo thing. So in 2003, Beyonce released her solo album, Dangerously in Love. That's the big song with Jay-Z, Crazy in Love. Crazy in Love.
Yeah.
I saw Beyonce in concert. The first concert she did as a solo artist. She was performing for Ford Motor Company's 100th anniversary celebration, and I was interning there in Michigan. We had free tickets, so I got to go see her.
Get out.
Were you obsessed with her then? Or you had to grow into it?
No, she was Destiny's Child. Like, I liked all those songs. I'm a Survivor, Bootylicious, all those things. So she brought out the girls from Destiny's Child. So that was like, everyone went wild for that. Jay-Z came out too to sing. So it was quite a first.
I think the reason it took time for me to grow to like her is because she was so manufactured by. It's almost like her Jackson 5 days.
Yeah.
Jackson 5 Michael Jackson is completely different than solo Michael Jackson. And her parents both were so heavily into producing her and packaging her. And it didn't feel authentic to her. It was kind of cheesy and hokey. It worked. It was successful.
Yeah.
But those clothes her mama put her in. Ooh.
Isn't her mom like a clothing designer or something?
Yeah.
They have their own clothing line now, right?
I think
her mom does. Her mom and sister or something?
I don't know.
House of Darien.
Is that what it is?
I think it went under.
Oh, okay.
It was not what the children were asking for, we'll say. Okay. It was like...
Because I remember they designed T-shirts for Barack Obama
Alexis
when he was running
Carrington.
for election. Like, 'cause if you went to his website to buy Obama T-shirts, they're like $20 each. But then if you got a designer T-shirt...
Was it in 2008 or 12?
I don't know if it was 8 or 12. But they were like $60 or $75 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, so Beyonce's always been popular. In 2008, she had kind of a big hit with Single Ladies. So that was on the album I Am Sasha Fierce. That's when we got to know Sasha Fierce. That personality of because Beyonce...
she's very shy.
I was about to say, Beyonce...
It's her alter ego.
In interviews is very shy, reserved.
She can't talk.
And Michelle, what's her name? No, not Michelle. What's that? Wendy Williams was like, oh, she can't. Wendy Williams apparently hates Beyonce. So, anyway,
Wendy Williams hates everyone.
Yeah, she does.
I'm not about that energy.
I don't like that either. She's nasty.
Wendy Williams?
Yeah, she's got.
Well, let's talk about how Titus Burgess went on Andy Cohen, Watch What Happens Live, and Andy Cohen was like, "Oh, you're doing a movie with Eddie Murphy?" Oh, because he didn't like the gays for a while, and Titus did not like that, and he went on. He made a statement about how rude and ratchet, what's his name, Andy Cohen is, and then he went on the Wendy Williams show, to talk about how ratchet Andy Cohen is.
Yeah.
Come on now. Can we just examine the hypocrisy in that
Wendy
statement?
Williams was on on Andy's radio show like a couple weeks after that happened, just to chat about it. I didn't hear the interview, but apparently he was saying it went well. But yeah, I mean But Titus, he was trying to make sure his coins were protected. He didn't want any be caught saying anything dirty about Eddie, because that's who's cutting the check for him right now, huh? Or no, I don't know. Anyways, I said.
But guess what? The media is always going to try to
that's a
trip
bad
you
word.
up and get a soundbite. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
To turn against the person that's interviewing as if like they're the only one doing it, or maybe he had a different. I think that was a little bit. Why are you being a messy queen?
Yeah.
I think it was kind of like a gay shade thing.
Yeah. Wait, if you
Because
watch
then he went on a woman show who's known for talking about everybody at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
got sidetracked.
Yeah.
But
I do want to take back the Wendy Williams' nasty piece, because that's very Trumpian. That's what he calls women are nasty. But she can say some mean
things.
She can read some people. So, anyways, we're talking about Beyonce. So Beyonce notably dropped her 2013 album, self-titled Beyonce, which was a video album. But it was a big deal because when she released that album, she gave no notice. It just kind of appeared on iTunes, and everyone was freaking out. Like,
which is
oh
a
my gosh.
huge deal because
Yeah.
there's only so many new shticks that people haven't seen
Right.
that you can do to like shock
yeah.
people.
Which you have to think about. Like, I don't even remember. Maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention. But I don't even remember any hype that an album was coming. I mean, and you think about like
No, that was the point.
in the mid 2000s though, there was always leaks. I mean, how many Madonna albums had leaks that before they were released, right?
How many leaks does Madonna have
Well,
these days?
that's for another episode. Okay.
When she sneezes, she's 61.
She's
Just
60.
kidding. That was ageist. I love her.
Come
That
on.
was.
And then she also
Says Tony.
got a lot of notoriety, still
Sore
being
subject.
creative. In 2015, she dropped the album Lemonade, which was another visual album, but it came through. She premiered that on HBO as a documentary. So I think she should have got an Emmy for that. But I'm just saying. Anyways, speaking of awards, she has won numerous Grammys. She's in 2000s, Billboard noted her as the top certified artist in America during that last decade, as well as the top female artist of the last decade. So, I mean, she was selling albums, all albums. I mean, you think about other pop stars like a Gaga, who didn't come out until the latter part of that decade, or Madonna even. Like, Beyonce was the one, or even Britney. Beyonce was consistent through that whole decade and is still putting out a lot of great hits. So she's the first and only musical artist in Billboard chart history to debut at #1 with their first 6 solo studio albums. So she does that. In addition to that, she does movies. Have you guys seen her in any of her movies? Have you guys seen The Lion King?
I have not.
No,
No, I didn't think
we
so.
don't like that. We don't care that much.
Her first movie was Carmen, and it was a hip opera. Starred on MTV. Did you guys or showed on?
I remember
MTV?
it coming out.
Yeah.
And then what was the Spy Who Loved Me or what?
Then Austin Powers. That's probably her first box office movie, which was with Austin Powers, Goldmember. So she was Foxy Cleopatra. I love Beyonce. Maybe
She can't
acting
act,
is
is what
not
you're
her
saying.
strong suit. Yeah, according to Wendy Williams. Dreamgirls. She got a lot of notoriety for that. I think they were thinking that was going to be her big breakout movie.
So did she.
She did, thinking she
The movie
gonna
was
get-
great, and she got no nominations for anything.
Jennifer Hudson won an Oscar though.
It was a great movie. She was okay in it. Beyonce desperately wants an Oscar. She's not even hiding that.
Yep. She's
Oh,
got to
really?
go
She
to Gaga
wants
route.
an Oscar, yeah.
She's got to write a song.
But she doesn't write.
She'll get writing credit.
But she don't write,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. It could be
She's
30
not-
writers, and she coughs on it, and they keep it in. Now she's on the writing staff.
Well, and that's part of the feedback on Beyonce. It's like she doesn't write her own stuff. I'm like,
Which who
look,
cares?
The girl works hard. Like you see her performances are flawless. So, yeah, I mean, she's not without. I mean, you're not that successful without your own kind of controversy.
See, I don't like those very high standards from people that sit behind a keyboard who want to complain about someone else's, you're not talented enough. Because, yeah, I like dancing to your music, and I know every single word to every single song you do, but you didn't write it. Why even think of the negativity
Yeah.
to
Right.
care about that? Can you just enjoy the music?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same with me with Britney. Do I need Britney? Do I really care when I'm dancing to a Britney song if it's live or pre-recorded when she's in her concert? Can I just enjoy the song,
And as far
please?
as like, I feel like, know what your strengths are. So I went to a Bette Midler concert once, and
Yay.
she said, every couple years I get a wild hair to be like, I'm going to write a song. She's like, I do it, record it. And she's like, I don't know about this. And her husband's like, yeah, just perform. Like, you're an amazing performer. People love you.
Yeah.
You're not a songwriter.
And Beyonce has a voice too, so I think she'll endure in decades ahead. Because like Jennifer Lopez, who is also enduring, but she doesn't have her voice isn't her strength. She makes a good pop song and she dances.
And you think she's writing any songs?
She's gotten some writing credit, but no, she's not allowed. But she knows that. She's like saying that. I mean, these divas who can like appreciate what their range is or what their strengths are. That's good. Gwen Stefani's like that. She's like, I'm not a great vocalist. She's like, I do punk, like I do rock, and I can do some fun pop songs, but it's not like you're not gonna come. No one's gonna come listen to me for my great.
To me, it's
talent.
like, does your music evoke emotion?
Yeah.
And you brought that emotion and that feeling or whatever to people, whether you wrote it, whether it's auto-tuned or not. Just, geez, let these kids live their lives.
She, some of the controversies, just some of the when she split with her dad. I mean, obviously they're still together, but from a professional standpoint, I mean, that was a big thing for her. But like you said, she was able to kind of find her own voice once she kind of came on her own. Then there was the big thing. 10 years ago this happened at the VMAs when Kanye came up on stage and interrupted Taylor Swift for winning the Best Female Video of the Year award, and Taylor was about to accept her first award, and Kanye raids the stage and says, I just want to say Beyonce had the best song of 2009, and that was a big controversy.
I remember.
Yes, she wasn't involved.
But do you remember how many sympathy awards Taylor Swift got after that?
She's still getting them to these days. I think that was probably a good thing
kind of
for her
fizzled
career.
out, but that was great for her career.
Yeah. I mean, a sad event. I mean, Beyonce, though, at the end, she won the Video of the Year award, so she invited Taylor Swift up to finish her speech,
I thought that was
which was really,
classy.
I would like, even watching it, I was reading about it today, I was like getting a little teary-eyed, like, oh, Beyonce. And then, of course, the big controversy with Solange and so her sister and Jay-Z fighting in the elevator. Beyonce was actually not involved in that, but I mean, she was there in the elevator, but she didn't really get involved in the...
Wait, you have to give more elaboration than that. They were
Go ahead.
They were in an elevator.
The Met
video
Gala.
was released at the Met Gala of Solange, the little spicy, feisty younger sister who does whatever she wants,
Good for her.
beating the crap out of Jay-Z.
This goes to show
and not
you-
only beating the crap out of him, but Beyonce is there in a corner like, it ain't my fight.
But if he made her
it
mad?
ain't my problem. And then
You can take the girl out of Houston, but you can't take the Houston out of the girl. H-Town.
And then all the rumor came out that Solange had confronted him about cheating on Beyonce. That's why Beyonce was kind of like, I'm not going to stop her. 'Cause she's,
Well,
right.
you knew she wasn't going to get involved, and she wasn't going to go all ratchet like that either, because she's like, look,
Well,
I got
it was
a
her own
reputation.
husband, so-
Yeah, but it's like, I got a reputation. It's one thing like for Solange to be throwing, but if Beyonce were to be throwing punches like that, I mean, can you imagine like what the news story would have been? I think she probably would have got more cred because she does get this robotic like perception out there, right? But that would have been a huge story. Been like Mariah Carey doing that.
And then she wrote in that lyric, of course,
Becky
shit
with
goes
the-
down when you got $1 billion on an elevator.
the Becky with the good hair. But yeah, so that's Beyonce.
I'm a fan of her. And now she's gotten more political, and a lot of the white people really turned against her because how dare her have an opinion on Black Lives Matter.
Well,
or anything
SNL
like
had
that.
that one like promo commercial where it was like the day America found out Beyonce was black. So they were kind of mocking.
As we talk about this,
reaction.
we talked about it last week when Michael Jackson was something was a topic about, or I don't know, maybe I just brought him up. The parallels between their careers. You can say Jackson 5, Destiny's Child, the parents that had so much
That
control,
was
and they're
this
kind of
morning.
messed up.
You just said that.
It's kind of messed up with so much control about the relationship with the parents and some animosity between Beyonce and her parents, same as Michael with parents. And Michael's artistry was completely different once he was kind of emancipated from his dad's control. And she can dance, man. That woman can dance. If you watch her videos where she's with professional dancers that do only that for a living, even when she's not singing, you cannot take your eyes off her, and she's doing it better than any other ones. That's why I say she's like the closest thing to dance level that we've ever had other than Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, she's phenomenal. She's done Super Bowl. She sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl. She sang at Obama's inauguration. She sang at the inaugural balls, or one of them, I guess. And so she's gotten. I mean, she's been every place you would want to be as a musical star. She's been right. She's checked off all those boxes. So I mean, again, huge fan. My favorite. I have two favorite performances of her. They're both of the song "Run the World." One is when she's doing it on the X Factor
French X Factor, yeah.
Like, the reason I like that is not only was her dancing flawless, but you see what a great entertainer she was, because she had the judges standing on their feet. Like, they were you saw their faces, and they were into it.
Everyone who's listening, go to YouTube and Beyonce France X Factor.
Yes.
Run the World. One of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
That's when Kendall finally flipped. He was like, "Oh yeah, she is good." I'm like, "I've been saying."
It was a slow transition.
I still haven't convinced Spencer, but I'm gonna get him, and then maybe I'll go take him to a concert or something.
I think part of the reason why people don't like her is the same reason so many people do like her, is that she's so quiet, enigmatic. You don't really know that much about her, so she's not giving you much to hate, but she's also giving people opportunities to say, well, let me speak for you. You're a stuck up, don't want to stick up for people.
Yeah.
So I think overall, obviously, it helped her more to be that kind of quiet, which is who she is, quiet person, because she's the number one celebrity in the world.
Yeah, she's the one.
They all bow down to Queen Bey. Even when Adele beat her in the Grammys for Best Album of the Year or whatever it was, she was almost apologetic to Beyonce.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
Beyonce
sorry
for
won
beating
for that.
you.
That was an amazing album. That was the year Beyonce came out, that album. And yes, it should have been number one. My second favorite performance is Oprah's farewell season. She also did Run the World. She had all these dancers out dancing, and Oprah was on her feet, her and Tom Cruise, and then Oprah was saying, yeah. I don't forget what she was, but she was shouting out.
She's bouncing up and down.
Yes, but Oprah was feeling it. So that's my take on Beyonce.
Woo!
We were ready, B.
All right. So shall we transition, Tony?
Yeah, something a little more serious.
Give it to us.
Today we're going to talk about Dan White, who I think, most gay people know Harvey Milk. He was the person who killed Harvey Milk. So I don't know that a lot of people know that much about him or even know his name, but I think one of the things that surrounds the whole issue is like, why did he do this? What's the mystery? Like, there's rumors that was he gay? Some people are like, was he jealous of Harvey because of his success?
Wait, tell people who Harvey Milk is.
So Harvey Milk was a LGBT rights activist. He he was from New York, but he lived in San Francisco, and he was kind of the mayor of Castro, his nickname was. But he was elected to the Board of Supervisors, which is kind of like their city council. And he and Dan White served on that. And Dan White ended up killing him, which we'll get into those details.
And Harvey Milk was like now in hindsight, we look at him as he's even been described as the
because this was in the 70s.
MLK of the gay community, like the first real person who had enough guts to speak up for the gays.
Yeah, because this was in the 70s, and we've talked about San Francisco culture at the time. Cops were corrupt. They would arrest you, threaten to arrest you. They would, go into the gay bars and threaten to shut them down.
And also the gays were at their most hedonistic, free, I'm going to live life, which is always a threat.
Yeah.
To, it being illegal to exist, to you're at Folsom Street Fair with your penis hanging out.
Right. Yeah, especially in San Francisco, there was a large gay population, very concentrated. Yeah. So Dan White, I guess his background, he was in the Army. He was very born middle class. He was in the Army. He was a firefighter. He was a police officer. Got elected to the Board of Supervisors, and so looking at his background, he was very successful. He was a valedictorian in high school. Seems like he was successful in what he did, but then he also had. In high school, he was expelled for violence. He was he resigned from the police force in San Francisco because he turned in another officer for beating a handcuffed suspect, and so he he was very successful. Kind of had a mixed background. Anyways, he was elected to the Board of Supervisors the same year as Harvey Milk, and he was from a very white district that. He felt it was his responsibility to kind of have family values,
He's some of the more conservative districts of San Francisco, which people think don't exist, but...
Right. Especially in the 70s.
Which probably made it more conservative because all the conservatives probably lived in that one area of Dan White's district.
Probably. And so he, had a military police background. He represented these conservative values. But he and Harvey actually got along fairly well as far as their stances on issues, because he was from that, but he was also like he was for like gun control. He was against discriminating against LGBT people as far as housing goes. So they did have similar stances on various political issues, and they actually formed a friendship. So I think there was like 11 members of the Board of Supervisors. Harvey Milk was one of only 3 that was invited to his son's baptism. So they did have a friendly relationship as well. But there was kind of the first fissure was there was a proposal to build a juvenile detention facility in Dan White's district. He was very opposed to this, probably because of the location. Harvey was very supportive, probably for, wanting it for the city. And he looked at that as a betrayal by Harvey. And so that was kind of the beginning fissure in their relationship. But he also had a very contentious relationship with about 3 other people on the Board of Supervisors. And it was only like a year and a half after he got elected that all of this happened. So that kind of festered. And right before Harvey was assassinated, what happened was there was a state ballot initiative that would have banned LGBT people from serving in the public school systems in California. And it got defeated. And he resigned the day after that got defeated. And
that initiative was huge. The Briggs Initiative, I think.
Yes, it was, yeah.
It was huge, and even Ronald Reagan came out against it. However, whenever people want to make Ronald Reagan look like, oh, he loved the gays just as much as anybody else, they point to him coming out in an op-ed saying he was against the Briggs Initiative, which was not allowing gays to serve in the public school system. And okay, yeah, that's great that he was against that, but it was it had nothing to do with gays. He said, if you don't let the gays do this, then pretty soon you can ban anybody, Christians, for whatever, if we decide. Yeah. So it was more like we need to protect our own self-interest because they're going to come for the nastiest among us.
Where
and
is
go
that
from there.
happening now in today's political discussions? Because it's like the Republicans have no regard for that. Like they don't realize some of these things that they're doing. Like if a Muslim wanted to say, I'm going to fire you because you don't practice my Muslim religion or Islam, then they can get fired, and they're not going to have the same appreciation for companies being able to have religious freedom. I mean, that's such.
There's a big push right now in the Satanist community because Satanism is a religion, and it's kind of one of those things. Be careful what you wish for, boo.
But I do feel too like politicians used to kind of think about precedent and think about how is this going to affect. And now, like the Texas state legislature was passing the Chick-fil-A bill where it's like, okay, let's, amend the law for one company basically versus, how does this affect like the broader.
And again, I think we talked about this last week. When you do something like that for Chick-fil-A, you're giving a company more rights than an individual.
Yeah. And it's like a company that you shouldn't have laws for a specific company.
Yeah. And the Trump administration is on its way to pushing some.
Yesterday they came out and asked the Supreme Court to confirm the fact that you should be able to fire gays
somebody, for being gay.
Simply for no other reason than being gay. You don't need any other reason.
Yeah.
And this comes just a few days after the log cabin. Republicans say not only do we endorse him, but he's upheld every promise.
Right. Protecting the gays.
Yeah.
So Dan White basically resigned the day after that was defeated. And so to me, it's like, well, why would he care that passionately as just a board of supervisor, which makes you think, was he gay and struggling? Because, he does have a history of violence. Maybe he was like festering as far as he couldn't come out. I don't know. So he resigned, and all of his supporters were mad at him, and they were very like, why would you resign? You represented us very well. We want you in government. So he asked the mayor to be reinstated as a board of supervisor. And the mayor was initially going to do it, but Harvey Milk and a few others lobbied against that because their thing was, okay, he resigned, he made a decision, but there was also, it was a 6-5 conservative liberal split, and they thought we have a chance to make it, 6-5 liberal versus, and so after lobbying, the mayor said, okay, no, I'm not going to allow you to be reinstated, and that's when he,
as he shouldn't have, you quit.
Right.
Now
but
the correct
mayor
thing
was
is due to have an
considering it, so
election.
he really had a vendetta against the mayor, Harvey, and 2 other people. So what he did was he had a gun, extra ammo. He, during working hours, crawled through a basement window into City Hall, went to the mayor's office, murdered him with a handful of bullets, walked.
And that mayor was a really good person. Like, if you do research on it, he's like the type of mayor you want, the type of politician you want. He just seemed very responsible and level-headed and embraced the gays and all viewpoints. And this was in the 70s.
Yeah. So then he walked across City Hall, murdered Harvey Milk, and he basically shot him 3 times and then went up to him and put the gun to his head and shot him twice more. So he would have, which, I watch a lot of true crime shows, and anytime there's kind of that level, it's
rage.
more of some kind of a rage. So, and it's kind of, we've talked about this before, he had this crazy defense where...
Wait, can we talk about who found Harvey Milk dying?
Who did?
Dianne Feinstein, the current... She was the president of the
She was the head of Board of Supervisors, yeah.
So she automatically became the mayor. So she was like, Dianne Feinstein is the current senior senator from California.
Yep.
She was the one that yelling at the kids to get out of her office, like, I don't have to listen to you because you're not old enough to
She's
vote.
got her own controversial
I'm just kidding.
background. But if you follow politics, she's the most senior female in the Senate, I think, and certainly one of the most prominent. But she was the one that found him and became, because of that, maybe at that time she was the first female of a city that large.
Probably.
Not the mayor, I should say.
Probably it was 70s.
And she uses that as a lot. Anytime someone, which is kind of annoying, but there have been many times where people have questioned her commitment to the gay community, and she's like, I found Harvey Milk when he was dying, and it's like, girl, come on, how many times?
Well, people do that with other civil rights. I mean, they do that with the black
Jesse
community
Jackson
as well.
does it
Just like,
because
I
he
was
was
there
there.
with Martin Luther
grabbed
King.
anything you can, yeah.
Just like that,
Yeah.
and it's like at some point you're like, you're still. Although if we could just a brief aside on like Dianne Feinstein, like, is there some deference to someone who's been fighting for equality for that long? Like, do we? I mean,
obviously there's deference because we have given an enormous amount of deference to Joe Biden, for example.
right.
And I also understand the fact that look, the clock is ticking. And when you're looking for rights, you always have to keep their feet to the fire. So, yeah, you found our dead hero, but you also weren't there for us on this, and this, and this, and this, which is more important because those are votes that you cast. Dianne Feinstein is one of those interesting liberals because she was a conservative liberal, which sounds like an oxymoron, but she was very, very
Now it does. I mean,
pro-police, like police force, strong police being able to, which we now know. I mean, the San Francisco Police Department had a horrible reputation.
Right, exactly.
The White Knights after
the
White Knight riots, they rioted after Harvey Milk was assassinated. Okay, so anyway, we got talking about her. So she found him, and then they arrested Dan White, right? Like they knew.
Yeah, I mean, he actually turned himself in. I mean, he made no bones. So he turned himself in. He was brought to trial, and he had this crazy defense where he actually had psychiatrists get up and testify. His thing was he used to be very healthy and take care of himself, and because of the stress of being on the board of supervisors, he stopped working out, he started eating sugary foods, and that basically led him to this murderous frenzy. And so because of this, it was kind of not really insanity, but they said he was so depressed he had no control over this. And it worked. I mean, he was actually found guilty of manslaughter, not murder, because murder would have said premeditated, even though, and getting back to your point about the police, they had police officers testify that said, well, police officers often carry their gun with them personally and extra ammo. And it's like, but he's not a police officer. He used to be. Anyways, he was.
How did he get off this murder charge? I mean, he murdered one person, then.
Oh, you wait.
Because
you'll never eat a Twinkie again.
He said it was. They said it was not premeditated because he was in this depressive state that he could not control his actions, and these sugary foods made him get into this murderous frenzy.
He'd been eating so much junk food.
Yes.
That's why the gays stay away from junk food, right?
Yes.
The only reason.
The only reason.
Because we're naturally fit and trim.
So he only spent 5 years in prison, and actually Dianne Feinstein begged him, please do not come back to this city because I think there's going to be a lot of animosity and there's going to be issues. But he did, and he ended up committing suicide less than 2 years after he got out of prison, which to me says because Dianne Feinstein at the time, she said it wasn't an anti-gay thing. He was mad at Harvey because they were political allies. He felt betrayed by him. And then when he tried to get back onto the board of supervisors after he resigned, Harvey lobbied against it.
I do believe that. And this is what we have to be very careful with doing. Because Harvey Milk in the movie, we want to instantly say, oh, he was assassinated because he was a prominent gay leader. No. What the true legacy is, unfortunately, is that Dan White got off with a slap on the wrist because he murdered a gay man.
Right, yeah. Yep.
The Twinkie defense is what they call it now.
The Twinkie defense.
Because it was so absurd
Yeah.
that your argument is you ate so much junk food that it made you
But it
go
worked,
off
and it's a
kill
jury
people.
of his peers in the 70s, and they thought, gay person, who cares?
Well, and
Twinkie
what people
defense.
gays were saying at the time, and which we say to this day, is it's why you need, because my conservative family would say you don't need hate crime law because it's already
every
covered.
crime's a hate crime.
And my thing is, okay, well then what about these? If you shoot a police officer, the sentence is a lot more severe.
Right, exactly.
Why is that? Because police officers are more at risk. They're more of a target simply because of the uniform they wear and the job they
Well,
have.
then that's a hate.
Gays are.
Yeah, I mean,
Gays have in the past, and I like to think it's less now, but they were a target because you were gay.
right,
You're a target because you're black.
right.
So you need hate crime laws to send a message that, and it was kind of this sense of, yeah, but they're gays, so okay, jury, we can
And that's why I
agree that
think
it's
the
not
Twinkie
that big a
defense
deal.
worked. If it was a mom walking down the street and she left two kids behind, would the Twinkie defense have worked? I
Of
don't think
course
so.
not.
Right. Yeah. So it is interesting that because some people think he was this gay person who was harboring this ill will. One thing you could point to too is it probably was the political animosity, but it could also have been he was very successful in many ventures, but he also he was actually profiled in the San Francisco Chronicle because while he was a firefighter, this lady's house caught on fire, and he busted in there and saved her and her baby. It was from like a second or eighth story apartment or something. So he was, really famous for a brief period for that. And so it makes you wonder, was he jealous of, once he got on the board of supervisors, he was kind of hitting a roadblock as far as maybe success, where Harvey was being more successful. I mean, he was a valedictorian.
I think it was some of it.
Yeah, and so did he have animosity that, Harvey was more successful? Was he closeted and he was
I think it
jealous
exacerbated his own insecurities he was dealing with. From what I remember hearing, he had financial issues at the time.
He did,
his
and
marriage was not doing well.
and one of the reasons he resigned from the board of supervisors was, and maybe it was a timing thing, maybe it really wasn't about that prop, but they didn't make very much money, but you couldn't have a full-time job. That had to be your full-time job, whereas he made way less money than when he was a firefighter or police officer. And so if he was dealing with all these personal issues like trouble in the home, economic issues, was he taking that out on this? He did seem very, nobody really knew who he was type of person. And he did have a very mixed, he was a job hopper. You'd think like if you were a police officer, that time they probably had lifetime jobs, pension.
Firefighter.
Yeah, and then he went to firefighter. He quit that, and so it's like, did he never fit in anywhere?
He was troubled.
Yeah,
because he was gay.
But the Twinkie defense reminds me of the gay panic defense, which has now been outlawed recently in a few states. The gay panic defense is, I saw two gays walking down the street holding hands. I killed them.
because I was so afraid they were
because their lifestyle affected me so much that I was panicking that maybe they were going to rape me, or even if a gay man walks by and whistles at you, which does not happen.
Right.
That's your defense in court of saying, I panicked because, he was doing something so unnatural towards me that I just snapped. And that was a legitimate defense for decades and decades.
I saw a meme that said there have been more Republican senators sent to jail for being inappropriate in the bathroom than trans men, or trans women. I guess trans men. It's just like, everyone's scared of the gays. So,
but actually, on that point about the defense, after this trial, I don't know if it was because of the White Night riots or whatever, but California did kind of make psychological issue defense a lot more strict in the definition, where you can't say I ate sugary foods and was depressed, and so
how does that? I mean, kudos to those freaking lawyers who did that.
Well, I think it was a sign of the times. Like, it was the lawyers that presented, he quit working out, ate all these sugary foods, and he was depressed, so that put him in this murderous frenzy. But then also, you have a jury of peers in San Francisco.
I was about to say,
right, but a gay guy died.
Well, not only that, but I want to know where they pulled the jury from. Was it local? Did you ask to have the trial moved somewhere far outside San Francisco?
Oh, that's the
because he had his own positive reputation to where people were begging him to come back.
Yeah, I mean, they not rioted, but I mean, they were very vocal about, you are a good representative of our values. We want you in government. Get back in there.
Again, I go back to this legal, if you've ever been to a court or have followed any court cases, you've got to be very precise. You can't just say, well, he ate too many. You've got to figure out within the context of the law where that argument is going to support.
I think the psychological issues defense was very loose.
Yeah.
And basically, it was so their thing was he was depressed. And because he was depressed, and it was the stress of being on the board of supervisors that caused him this depression, that's why he did this. And that's why after this defense, they tightened up the language as far as, I don't know what the language reads now, but it probably has to be a lot more.
Well, Dan White is part of the biggest reason he got off was white privilege.
But I mean,
because look, Dan White was a cute.
Yeah, here we go, Kendall.
No, he was an attractive. He had a family. He was a firefighter, police officer, army, all that kind of stuff.
Saved a woman and her child.
He just made a mistake because people like that could be my son.
But you know what? As far as defense goes, a couple years ago, a Harris County deputy and her husband murdered a guy in a Denny's parking lot.
That was Waffle House, I think.
No, it was Denny's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and his first trial, the lawyers, the prosecutors didn't really put forth much of a case because they thought, this guy should be off. He's a cop's, husband. And so there was one juror, that said, made it hung. Everybody else was innocent.
At least Tony's.
And there was one juror that was like, nope, I'm not finding this guy innocent. And then his family was like, this is bullshit. You put no effort into this trial. Retrial, it was unanimous that he got found guilty. And so I do feel like lawyers can have, and the jury makeup can have a big.
But that's a prosecution, right? They select jurors. I just, I think it's, that's crazy that this guy got off. But you've seen cases like that. You saw a man in San Francisco, I think, who was accused of rape. He got off, and that caused all sorts of controversy a few years ago. And then you got the kid who had affluenza in Dallas.
Affluenza, because
because he was insane. But that's such as our legal system. So that's our friend. Not our friend.
What do you want to talk about? Why these people are getting off?
Why you want to talk about?
Oh, what?
That's our friend Tony talking about.
That'll be my spin-off.
Dan White, who was
a critical part of our history.
Born on September 2nd, 1946. Huh?
Right.
All right. So another man that was born this week.
In 1946.
In 1946. Not the same day.
September 5th.
Was? Kendall.
Freddie Mercury.
Get out.
Of Queen, famous for lead singer of Queen. He was born Farouk Bulsara.
What was his national? Like, what was his ethnicity? His
He was
heritage?
born in Zanzibar, which is now Tanzania.
Okay.
I think it was Indian ethnicity, Indian heritage, though.
Okay.
And back then, Tanzania was a British protectorate. So the reason he had the British accent and kind of familiar with British culture, I mean, he later moved to England, but was because he was living in a world between, he went to school in India, boarding school in India, and living in Tanzania, and then moving to England. You know, those were all colonies of England, so it was easy to travel amongst those worlds. But he was Farouk Balsora, and then his classmates and teachers started calling him, they gave him the nickname Freddie when he was at boarding school in India, and it kind of stuck the rest of his life.
Have you guys ever been to India?
No, but I want to.
No, just I want to go back. I went for work one year. It was it's a fascinating culture.
You
The
could
reason
tell.
I'm like,
It's very rich.
It's so deep and very different than what I know. That's why I'm intrigued by like Freddie. Now even more so when you say Freddie Mercury has Indian heritage, because I'm like, what was that? I don't know that.
And he grew up
speaks a lot about who he is.
in a religion of Zoroastrianism, which is its own religion. I don't know too much about the religion, but it's not. He's amongst people that are mostly Hindu. Moved to a country where, if they're anything, they're Anglican. He's a little gay boy. Well, and there's controversy of if he was gay or bi or confused or whatever. But to me, I see him as someone that grew up between cultures.
Yep.
He didn't keep his name Farouk Balsara for a reason. He chose Freddie, and then he chose how he got Mercury, which is what he officially changed his name to when he became the lead singer of Queen in the early 70s. There are lots of different interpretations. He's hot like the Mercury, the planet. He loves mythology. Mercury was a god. But to me, the most accurate, most likely one, I should say, there was a song at the time that he loved where Mercury was in the lyrics about someone comparing them to Mercury. So we'll say it's that, okay? We're just going to go ahead and say it's that. Okay, so Freddie Mercury to me...
I guess that's a no.
Wait, I didn't hear you what you
I
say.
said, do you know the song?
Oh, it's in my notes somewhere. One of these dogs probably ate it.
I guess we should have just researched that a bit more then, huh?
Yeah, we should probably research that more.
We're under these tight deadlines, and we do exhaustive research. You can't do everything.
Our level of research reflects our level of pay.
There you go.
So, growing up, I thought Queen was...
Works retreat, okay?
I thought Queen was amazing growing up. To me, it's the greatest rock band of all time. Yeah. No one has done any music like Queen before or since.
You think?
But you know what's interesting? We all knew he was gay, but it was like an acceptable to the straight men. Like straight men are not scared.
Why that is? If he was like that, if he was accepted like that, is it because he was so extreme and just so? Because, I mean, if you were kind of the average gay person in that time, like general society...
Well, he didn't talk about it. He made great music.
Did people know he was gay?
How could you not? I
mean, but that's how...
but even to this day... No, listen, I'm talking
David
about...
Bowie, you had the...
I'm talking about as a kid, years after he was dead, and people still like, Queen, this is great.
Do you think straight people just didn't care that he was, like, I guess that's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is I think it's interesting that they didn't care, for whatever the reason is.
But I feel like I remember hearing people be like, what? He was gay? Like,
he died of AIDS, boo.
Well, I know that.
But you mean like, well, they didn't know
when
he was alive.
In the heyday,
when he was, when he was...
But even now that we know that he's gay and died of AIDS is what I'm saying, it never really affected his legacy. And if anything, he became more popular after he died.
What did you listen to Queen, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, especially the big songs.
Well, I'm just curious because
Bohemian Rhapsody, We Will
but,
Rock
like,
You, We Are Champions.
I'm curious
We're
because
the champions.
Tony like doesn't know, has his zero cultural reference.
Yeah.
So
No, but I mean, I
radio,
feel like they were so iconic. How could you not know who Queen was?
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
If you were telling
Tony
me
was
no,
raised by
That's
little
the thing. If
Montana
I know
Grizzly
Queen
Bear.
and their songs,
That's
yeah.
where I was going. I was like, does even Tony know? Queen?
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I will say, being born like in Podunk, Montana, I didn't really know a lot about Freddie Mercury, but I knew Queen and their music.
Yep.
Like I knew these 5 songs are super famous. And
Number one, obviously, being Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
That-
And We Will Rock, or We Are
Which
the
was like
Champions.
that's like a piece of art.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
The way every word that it's written in the video, and it's
Yep.
Yeah, because
that's one of the greatest songs to me of all time.
the way it changes, like it's so erratic, like it's
Yep.
a lot of dissonance in terms of like there's nothing like.
well,
nothing
because he was
flows the way you
influenced by
want it.
opera. If you watch the movie Bohemian
Yeah.
Rhapsody,
Have you seen it? I haven't seen it.
yes.
Oh, you haven't? It's
And
amazing, yeah.
the guy who played him, Rami Malek, won an Oscar for it.
Yep.
He was good. He
One
wasn't
thing-
great. He was good, but he was very magnetic. Like you couldn't take your eyes off of him. So to me, it's like,
It's because of those teeth he had.
yeah, those big old teeth.
One thing that's interesting about that song too is, you know, they got a lot of pushback from their producers and recording companies. Like, really, like a 6 or 8 minute song. They're like, nobody's gonna listen to a 6-minute song or whatever.
And
he's
they
like,
fought for it, yeah.
And he goes, I want to do this. And I mean, he had to convince the band, the recording company, everybody to do this song. And he was a perfectionist. I mean, in the movie, it's like not right, you know. And they were getting exhausted and frustrated.
Yeah,
And,
now you know what picture me as Freddie Mercury when I'm trying to talk to you guys about this podcast.
But you got
that's
the teeth.
exactly what I think of.
Well, and going back to the straights liking him, when I think of football, there are 2 songs that are like always going to be played in NFL. Other than "Are you ready for some football?"
They don't
It's
play that one anymore.
in the stadiums. "We Will Rock You, We Will."
Right.
And people are hitting their feet to
All
the
those
bleachers
straight
to-
MAGA people that
We Will Rock
dancing
You.
to a bunch of gays singing.
And then the
this
other
song.
one is "We Are the Champions," and the straight men love it. I just think it's interesting. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
overanalyze it.
No, I agree.
But how a band named Queen, hello Queen, whose main person was eccentric and died of AIDS, although it was a different time, 70s and 80s, you could be out there.
Yeah. And maybe that's because, I mean, 80s was big hair bands when, like, a lot of straight people
70s
liked
was
Poison
David
and-
Bowie, Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
Yep. Elton
Yeah.
John.
And maybe that helped them be accepted where it's like, okay, if you're kind of a Joe Schmo gay, it's like, ugh. But if you're like, okay, gays fit into this bucket of you're really flamboyant and just over the top. And maybe that's why they were
RuPaul
accepting.
said something very interesting that I agree with. He said there's this cultural pendulum that swings back and forth, and there's these pockets where people are very accepting of people that are outside the mainstream. The 70s and before AIDS really hit in the 80s, that was one of them. To where men, were wearing huge wigs, massive amounts of makeup. They were trying to look androgynous, which is so not straight heteronormative. And then you swing, and then let's look at the 90s when
Yeah.
it's all this like dark, brooding, depressed,
Well, you had that, but you also
raggedy,
had,
look like they stink, and they're not trying to look like.
but you also had hip hop. I mean, that's the thing too that like I think we ignore in terms of whitewashing things. I mean, hip hop really started to make its commercial success in the 90s, right? I mean, so that's a
It did, but it was morphing from what I call this kind of like a hip, a hop, a hip, do you, to this what is completely different. There's a huge, long, very interesting, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, evolution of hip hop. And one of the big questions they're trying to answer, which I don't think you really can answer, is what is hip hop? Because
Yeah.
it changes so much. It involves so many aspects of clothing and slang and music. I mean,
Well, there they
rap
had-
when it started is not rap of 2019.
no, it was like dub beats. I mean, there were fake beats playing with the electronics, and then you go to like the mid '90s when you had gangster rap, which is more poetry to some extent, right? And then now to the booty shaking.
But
I
also,
sound
like,
a grandpa
talking
saying
about
that.
kind of cultural or society kind of pendulum, like we talked about James Buchanan, who was, at that time, it's like, as long as you're doing your job, I mean, we might make a little fun of you, but it's not going to really...
Right.
Whereas now we're like, Supreme Court is deciding is it okay to fire somebody for being gay? It's like 150 years later, 160. And, apparently like before World War II, during the heyday, Berlin was very liberal, a lot of stuff going on. And then kind of, once Hitler was in control and it's very military, even before the war, like that stuff just wasn't accepted. And so, like the pendulum of society swinging from over time.
Well, also, and when the economy and with society is doing great,
I 100% agree.
like the Roaring '20s.
Yep, exactly.
People are like, "Oh, we're all having fun," and then when the shit hits the fan and people are losing money, they start.
Yep.
Everyone feels vulnerable, and they start dragging the most vulnerable people down.
I agree,
because it becomes very caste system hierarchical.
This is Trump's like biggest like
yes, and that's exactly what happened with Hitler. That's how he got into power.
He stumbled on his own thing though, because the economy is doing. I mean, aside from like recent headlines,
right?
He inherited a good economy. Like I was actually scared.
Inherited 8 years of
trashing
growth.
it.
Yeah,
I was actually scared like he was going to be, and you wish the best for whoever's the president when they come into the office. So I was like, this guy might actually make things happen, like because he has such a. He's not loyal to anyone.
You were scared he was going to make positive things happen?
Well, it's just like, I was like, he might be brilliant and then reelected because he can schmooze people. And, those DC folks love to be schmoozed, right? Oh, so he's all about, he knows how to work that. And so, and I was like, because he talked about infrastructure, and of course they always talk about infrastructure. But I'm like, he could have really made something like that happen, but he's totally just like, crapped on himself. He's his own worst enemy, and if he gets reelected, I'll be completely surprised. But
I won't be surprised. I think it's anybody's game.
Well, I mean, I guess I won't be surprised,
Yeah.
but I will be like, everything on the tally sheet says he shouldn't be being. I mean, he's screwed himself over. He has had a corrupt cabinet. He's fired people. Yeah. He writes his own people that
this is
he
a
hired.
whole Trump rant.
Yeah, but I'm going off on Trump.
But let's get back to the Queen at hand, shall we?
Thank you.
Okay, so Queen, I was always like, okay, here, talking about it the way I saw it, here are all these straight dudes requesting Queen. Like, Queen is used many times as a derogatory. It's a slang for a gay person. Yeah. So I wanted to know how they got the name Queen. Is it really? Are you talking about, is it... For what it is, as I see it, gay slang. He said in an interview, Freddie Mercury, it's very regal, obviously, and it just sounds splendid. It's a strong name and very universal and immediate. I was certainly aware of the gay connotation of it, but it was just one facet. So to me, he was using it as like it could mean several things, and that was certainly one of the ones.
Yeah. It also makes you
like
think,
wink, wink,
like the gay aspect, but then also like Queen were like the top.
Yeah. And he was actually a very shy guy, very shy. To me, his Freddie Mercury is Sasha Fierce to Beyonce.
Because on stage, that man is...
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Whereas, and like, in the movie they talked about, because he had like the 2 extra teeth and he had this...
Yeah, he had 2 extra teeth in the mouth, which he thought helped him sing better.
So that gave him his ability, but he also got teased growing up. And even when he tried to get in his first band, they made fun of him with those teeth. But then when they heard him sing...
Oh, man, his voice is amazing.
Yeah, so I could see him being like insecure.
Yeah, my favorite one is when he's getting everyone to chant. Is it Wimbledon? Where are they?
Live Aid, which was...
Oh, my God,
Okay, so the Live Aid performance in 1985 to benefit AIDS. Or was it Africa? Shoot, I didn't know research.
Africa.
Feed the world.
Okay, thank God.
The research department.
Woo! Research department didn't let us down on that one. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
So, Live Aid in 1985 they did a survey of music executives a few years ago, and it was ranked as the greatest live performance of all time. And watch it online. It's the only performance people are talking about from that entire huge 1985. It was a mini concert.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. Watching the movie, I know this is about Freddie Mercury, but watching the movie, I hadn't YouTubed that video of the live. You watch the movie, and then you YouTube that video, and it is identical. It is like you are watching the concert.
He did
such a good job.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
And what he was known for was carrying, and I've never seen any other artist do it, because they can't live up to Freddie Mercury. One time he was holding his microphone stand, and it broke. The bottom end of that microphone stand, the pedestal fell off, so he's just left with this long stick, basically, with a microphone attached. And he liked the way it felt. So that became kind of his thing, to where he always was holding the mic stick, but not the actual microphone stand.
Oh, okay.
And he would use that as a prop, and like yield it as a wand or faux guitar or something, and it became part of his whole persona. It's just one of those fascinating, magnetic people to watch, and it goes to show the shyest people, the most introverted people can just turn it on when they need to.
Once they find their
live a
voice,
different life.
Like I feel once they find their niche or voice or whatever, it just
Yeah, I mean it's an art form, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's just how.
And I mean, if he was like a really shy kid and things like that, what I envision when I think of Freddie Mercury is when he comes out on stage. I mean, he comes out on stage and he's running, dancing. He just like immediate magnetic energy. And whereas like
another artist, David Bowie, and they had issues because they did a duet together, and they could not agree because here are two master artists, and they were like fighting over. The name of that duet escapes me. Shit, it's huge, iconic.
The video, but yes, yep.
Under Pressure. No, that's a different one. Anyway, we'll find it later. But they had their own issues on that because they were fighting for creative control of that. But even with that, David Bowie said how much he admired Freddie Mercury and how he could hold an entire. Is it Under Pressure? Yeah, he could hold an entire stadium full of people in the palm of his hand. That takes art, and that's what every artist wants to do. Lady Gaga says, and Lady Gaga to me can do it, not to that scale, but
she's good.
She can do it, and she says my whole motto is sing to every stadium like it's a small club, and sing to every small club like it's a huge stadium. Like they're not far off. Like it's a delicate balance. But did y'all see the movie Bohemian Rhapsody?
I did, yeah.
Which was supposedly the highest grossing musical bio movie of all time.
Really?
Which is so specific that it kind of takes the impression.
You know what's funny? At the time, I was, the industry I work in, it's very like old, white, Republican. My boss, he could not wait to see that movie, and he's probably like in his 60s, very Republican. And he's like, just bragged about the movie.
Yeah, the songs are so good that they transcend.
Yep.
The concept, it makes up for the fact that he's a big old queer. Because I don't think many straight guys are rushing.
Wasn't out, publicly? I mean, he
obviously... It was, well, his
really.
Sexuality isn't that clear-cut either, because the love of his life was a woman, Mary Austin, that he started dating in around 1970. They lived together. They wanted to get married. And then he had an affair with an American record executive, and that's when they broke up.
A man or woman?
A man, gay.
But I think he had encounters here and there, because, and
I think she knew that too.
Yep.
It was complicated. I think you could be soulmates with somebody,
and I think she loved him
sexual.
to the end. And she, once he had problems, when he did, find a long-term boyfriend who did not have his best interests at heart, she was there for. She was.
Well, they were neighbors too. He bought a house next to his. And he went through all these boyfriends, and Mary Austin was still there, literally
always there
next door.
Yep.
And all his boyfriends were like, "Oh my God, you and Mary." To where he gave a quote: "All my lovers asked me why they couldn't replace Mary, but it's simply impossible. The only friend I've got is Mary, and I don't want anybody else. To me, she was my common law wife. To me, it was a marriage. We believe in each other, and that's enough for me."
And it seems like in the movie there was a part where he was chatting with her, and it was almost like he thought, God, why do I have to be gay? I just want to be with you. Because I remember when they were talking and he was almost like crying.
Because he's a shy guy, I think he found someone that got him and made him feel safe.
And so I do think they had a very true love connection.
Well, when he died of AIDS, bronchopneumonia, which is caused by AIDS, due to complication of AIDS. Yeah. On November 24th, 1991, he was only 45. But he left more than anybody else. He left the most to Mary Austin, the great love of his life, who happened to be a woman. Although he was dating several men throughout his life, he always went back to Mary. And she's still living in that house today. She's alive and still living in that house.
That's awesome.
That he had left her.
We always go back to Mary, huh?
But here's the thing, though. He died. He didn't admit he had AIDS until the day before he died.
Right.
He came out in a statement. And there was a lot of, at the time, gays saying, we could have used the money. You could have made
I was just thinking that. I was like, what if he would have been out that whole time?
But you know what? Even if you're famous, it's everyone's own journey.
It is, yeah. And Rock Hudson the same. Like, he faced a lot of pressure because they're like, if you come out, you will raise awareness and people will have to address this issue. Like
even
the
Roy
government-
Cohn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but he had tried various treatments, and when he found out, okay,
Turn it off.
when he
The
found
intern
out
is listening to music.
I am
Spoiling.
dying and this is the end, that's when he went public with his story. And
Yeah.
maybe that's just like, what have I got to lose?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, I mean, it's crazy that you had all these big, popular, well-established people that didn't want to come out, even though they were facing death until that last moment. And then now I saw someone on Twitter who was like, "I love 2019." He's like, "I can talk about putting a dick in my butt and not even worry about it." And everyone's like,
Who was
"Yay!"
this? Who was this?
Yeah, was he cute?
Right.
No, he was okay. But anyways,
Well, part of that is we think we own celebrities, which is very sad. Which
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I were a celebrity, who knows what kind of mental state I would be.
good thing this
I'm barely
podcast
hanging
is
on
only
as it is.
listened to by a couple people.
So the day before he died, he released
200.
The media for years was kind of like, wink, wink. He's straight. We kind of know he's gay. So there was all this conjecture. He released a statement saying, "Following the enormous conjecture in the press over the last 2 weeks, I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and I have AIDS. I felt it correct to keep this information private to date to protect the privacy of those around me. However, the time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth, and I hope that everyone will join with me." Oh my, just phone went out. "My doctors and all those worldwide in the fight against this terrible disease. My privacy has always been very special to me, and I am famous for my lack of interviews. Please understand this policy will continue."
And I guess everyone knew that because his last videos where he was.
Oh my God. So his last video,
That's a sad song too. Like, I mean, just in terms of the.
and you know what? I read stuff. There were people in the band that said everyone assumes that he was just depressed and it was sad. Yeah, he looked sad, but he was like, "This is my life. I don't want to think about that." These are literally his words.
Yeah.
"I don't want to think about that. I want to do this right now."
Yeah, because it seems like before getting HIV, he went through this, his boyfriend didn't have his best interest and he lost the band, and like he went through a really tough time in life. And it was when he was like, got clarity on, oh my God, that was a horrible period. And he kind of reunited with, what was her name, Mary, and just kind of got his life sorted. That's when he found out he was HIV positive. And I think he just had so much clarity on life. He's like, I want to get back to music. I enjoy it. Enjoy the band. Like, let's just do this. I want to live out my days.
I can't control.
Yeah, I want to
the fact
live
that
out
I'm
my
gonna die.
days performing, which is what I love.
That last video, he was so skinny.
What was the song?
and
Do you remember?
sad.
I don't remember.
You're trying to call me
No,
on
no,
it
no, I was
because
just
the
trying to-
research department. Get the research department on it.
It was a slow one. Dun 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 dun.
It's
dun.
not famous. It's more so famous for being how jolting it was, because here he was in the spotlight. And he was so tiny, shriveled up as little man.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
But the people, the band said
Mother love.
Yeah.
it was so sad because what should have been taped in a day took several days because he only had the strength to come out for a few hours to tape it. Because you're just barely alive when you're that far into having AIDS.
It's like anything, like Last Days of Cancer or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So that's Freddie Mercury, huh?
That's Freddie Mercury.
Born this week. Wow.
An icon, the legend.
An icon. Yeah, it's again, I think we referenced a couple of YouTube videos between Beyonce and Freddie
Live
Mercury.
Aid 1985.
You guys need to check these things out. So because these, if
why
you're
I
not
love
fans,
YouTube.
you'll be like, boom.
YouTube is like its own little gay history lesson. You can get sucked down the rabbit hole of
Wait, suck
YouTube.
what?
Don't need.
Oh, he said
Is he
Herbie
cute?
say suck.
All right, well.
And hole.
That's it, ladies. Thank you for listening to our podcast and kikiing with us. A special thank you to our sound person, especially this week because we were on location and we had to work out some kinks. And
Being on the
Spencer
road is not easy, people.
to the rescue. We're gonna try this one out on a future road show, so we'll see how that one goes.
That's
We're going to
but
hell.
We'll mention that later. So thank you, Spence, for keeping us
Thank you,
organized.
Spencer.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear future episodes. Visit our website at letstalkaboutgaystuff.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Let's Talk About Gay Stuff. You can also find us on Twitter at talk gay stuff. So don't forget to leave us a review. Tell us what you think. I mean, we've answered our questions from our one of our listeners, Jan.
We want more questions.
So
Actually,
yes.
my friend Rhonda, shout out to Rhonda. She was taking her daughter back to San Marcos a couple weeks ago and listened to our podcast the whole way there, the whole way back. And she texted me. She goes, "Love your podcast." She goes, "I would like to get together for some wine. I have some questions for you."
Yeah.
So
Bring
I
on the
will be
questions.
sure to.
And you're like, wine?
I'll be sure to write them down, and we
Yes.
will address them.
We want some questions. Again, and you can send your questions to let's talk about gay stuff at gmail.com. So, and don't forget to listen. We mentioned them on the live video earlier. Listen to our sister podcast, Our Spoopy Podcast, which is available now. And they've just informed me that they're about to do a spinoff that is called
What?
Our Rupee
Rupee.
Podcast, where they talk
More
about
to come.
drag stuff, so drag queen stuff. So that should be very interesting. So more to come. Be sure to keep an ear out for that. So with that, we're here.
We're queer.
Get used to it.